If you ask me, a surprise should be absolutely fantastic. Don't bother trying to surprise me with something mediocre or only kind of special or, dare I say, disappointing. Surprises should be totally awesome and mind-blowing. And then there's reactions to surprises. The best surprises are the ones where we can hardly believe them. Something that seemed impossibly unlikely is right there in front of you. Moments that leave you speechless with a huge smile plastered across your face and making your face ache. In our reading today, Yvonne told us that the women who went to the tomb where Jesus had been buried experienced a full range of surprises that Sunday morning. First, they were puzzled. They wondered what was going on. Not a level 10 surprise, I grant you, but still unexpected. Then they got the full force of a level 10 surprise smacked round the back of the head by a couple of angels. Note that unlike the Christmas angels, these guys do not welcome the women with that lovely "do not be afraid" line. In fact, there's more of an attitude of rolling their eyes at them. Now, I don't know how surprising my third example is, but they dash off to tell the disciples the exciting news after the penny had dropped, which we're told in verse 8. The disciples, who'd heard all the same things from Jesus that the women had, and possibly even more, don't believe them. In fact, the word they use is nonsense in verse 11. Perhaps that was a surprise, perhaps it was quite typical. The last moment of surprise is not the women, it's Peter. In verse 12, he does exactly what the women have done, maybe wondering if he can find out whether they'd been hallucinating. He found the tomb just as they had said, and yet even though that news had been handed to him, he still wonders. Here's a bit of background information for you. A woman's word in 1st century Jerusalem, among many other places, was legally worthless as a witness. If she said something had happened or that she'd seen something, it could be discounted completely. If it was her word against his, there would be no contest. Jesus, however, never treated the women nor any of those what we might call substandard citizens. He never treated them in this way. He valued each individual, and they were judged by their heart, not by anything as arbitrary as their age, their gender, their race, or their social standing. It's difficult to find anything to show whether the apostles had learned from this attitude. But it would be easy to fall back on a lifetime of habitually taking the words of a woman with, at the very least, a pinch of salt. Particularly when the story was as far-fetched as theirs. Let's turn back to the surprises and consider the level of surprise that you feel around this time of year, every year. This is my 48th celebration of Easter, and I must admit to having no sense of surprise when Easter morning comes around. I can't imagine how the women and Peter felt when they wondered what was going on, nor when Luke writes that they suddenly remembered Jesus' words. They knew that they were on the cusp of something absolutely extraordinary. Going back to my introduction, this really was a totally awesome and mind-blowing surprise. It wasn't about the dead being raised. They'd experienced that before with Lazarus and Jairus' daughter, which was surprising. It wasn't even the dead man raising himself, and try to get your head around that one for a moment. It was the battle that had been won when their friend and master and teacher descended into the presence of Satan and showed him once and for all who's boss. Everything they knew or thought they knew about a relationship with God was about to change. But today, I am challenged to be surprised. Surprised by the awesome, phenomenal, unending, boundless, unconditional, powerful love of Christ. Surprised by the events of 2,000 years ago and, from me, 3,219 miles away, being personal to me and to each one of us. Surprised by the fact that the creator of the universe, who has, in the words of Robin Williams' Disney genie,
phenomenal cosmic power,
allowed his dearly loved children to puncture his hands, feet and side, and to believe that they had authority over him in order to restore a relationship broken by every man, woman and child who ever existed or who ever would exist. Approximately 12 billion sinners so far and counting. William Hazlitt, the English essayist and critic, coined the phrase familiarity breeds contempt. And although I have absolutely no contempt for Easter, you will be glad to hear, the phrase still challenges me. Familiarity in this case seems to breed mediocrity, a kind of a yeah attitude that has long since ceased to be amazed, awestruck or humbled. Of course, I'm not suggesting that we have all slipped into this habitual celebration of Easter, but I am confident that I'm not the only one. And I do feel gratitude every single Easter. It's just that I'm not surprised by the story anymore. So where do we go from here? Well, dig deep into your deepest thoughts and feelings and allow yourself to be surprised, to experience that sense of being faced with something that was impossibly unlikely, and it's right there in front of you. Because it will refresh your relationship with our Father. It will renew the life balance between you and God, and it will increase your sense of gratitude, which is an excellent place for worship. Know this: we don't have to be clever, successful, pious, sweet, or attractive to be special to Jesus. We don't have to be good at certain things or get it right all the time. We don't have to be good Christians, whatever that means. Nor do we have to have spoken in tongues or have had a word of wisdom or knowledge. We are already special to God before any of those things happen, and even if they never do. You and I were created in his image in order to have a relationship with him. Easter is the root of that story because it reminds us that while we were still selfish, weak, grumpy, rude, unkind, thoughtless, greedy and jealous, Christ died for us. And because he is who he is, he rose again, just as he said he would. In our secular world, all of these things are surprising. Forgiveness is available to all and is for absolutely anything and everything we have ever done that has caused God and others pain. Forgiveness is not and never can be earned. It is the decision of the giver, and it is a gift. In the story of God and you personally, the forgiveness was credited to you before you had come to God. All you have to do in order to get your hands on it is accept his grace, mercy, and love.